Well, hello and welcome to today's edition of the Pastor Study. Last time we saw just a tidbit of the consequences of the sin that David committed. We saw what would come his way, and we saw David say, I have sinned. And we're going to look a little bit more of that. David, in his confession, took responsibilities. And as he confessed that sin, Nathan comes back and says to him, the Lord has taken away your sin. You shall not die. With all of the consequences that would fall upon David, Nathan says, you will not die. Your life will not be destroyed. You have been forgiven. Jesus said, James says for us that when we confess our sins, the Lord is faithful and just to forgive us our sins and to cleanse us from all unrighteousness. This is what he's doing even in David's life. And yet even one more thing will fall upon David. That child which has been born will die. So even though there will be consequence, even though there is confession and even though there's forgiveness, there's still consequences. And David's confession really is wrapped up for us in Psalm 51. There's a number of things that he says. He cries out for graciousness. He cries out for the Lord's loving kindness. He asks him to be washed thoroughly of his iniquity, cleansed from his sin. He recognizes and says that what he's done is against the Lord and the Lord only. That's where the sin really, that's the root of the sin. Yes, other people were affected, but the root of the sin is what we do against God. All of our sins are against God. That's the root of that sin. He cries out for the Lord to purify him, to wash him as whiter than snow, and to return to him the joy and gladness that he once had. To bring back that joy of service. You know, so often we get bogged down with guilt from our sin. We need to know that when God forgives us, he remembers it no more. And that guilt doesn't have to weigh us down. And what can return to us is a joy for serving Jesus, a joy of being obedient. I trust that you find that joy in your life when you confess, when you forsake, and you go on in loving the Lord. He will restore that joy. There may be consequences, but the joy can return. Till next time in the Pastor Study, goodbye and may God bless.